Welcome back, everyone. This is Dave from Porn Production, here to talk about This Is Us, Season 6, Episode 7, titled Taboo. The episode's description reads as follows. Rebecca has a big announcement to make at Thanksgiving dinner. The episode was directed by Glenn Steelman, who I know nothing about. He seems to have been just starting his career, mostly spending it as an assistant director with 30 credits there. He has 3 directing credits, including 1 for This Is Us and another for Switched at Birth. He has 1 acting credit for a movie called Psycho Cop. Sounds interesting. The episode was written by Dan Fogelman and Laura Kanar. Before going any further, I will tell you a couple of things. 1. This is not a spoiler-free video. If you haven't watched the episode yet, go and check it out, and then watch my video. Secondly, if you like this video and want to support the channel, please like, share, and comment, as well as subscribing to my channel. This is going to be another quick hit video, just briefly talking about my thoughts, which was a very good episode, taking place in 3 different timelines, 3 different Thanksgivings. The first timeline was the most disposable of the 3 stories. This one taking place shortly before Rebecca and Jack got married. Now, what exactly are we doing in this particular timeline? I'm not really sure. This doesn't really amount to very much. But we do get a chance to see Tim Matheson again as Rebecca's dad, as well as Elizabeth Perkins as her mother. The conclusion of the story, with Rebecca patching things up with her mother, doesn't seem to jibe with everything that we've seen before or everything we see after. It just seems kind of out of character for Rebecca's mother. It was kind of fun seeing Jack and Rebecca's dad getting along for once, which, as you might recall from previous appearances, was a pretty rare thing. The second timeline, the college age years, is actually the one that I found the most interesting of the 3 stories. Logan Schroyer, who I criticized last week, did some pretty strong work here. He did very well with the jackassy drunk side of Kevin. And I think, regarding my criticism of him last week, I think that the script really didn't do him any favors, being way too rushed. Right away, we get a sense that things are going to be awkward because there's so many personal dynamics at play, including a new possible boyfriend for Rebecca, Miguel's situation with her and the kids, and so on and so forth. It culminates in a game that Rebecca and Miguel kick ass at because they know each other so well, which leads to Kevin drunkenly telling Miguel that he's been worried about the wrong man. Now, I gotta say, there's something a little bit odd about Kevin's attitude. He seems to have a problem with Rebecca dating again, which is completely at odds with where we saw him in Season 4, in which he was very much insisting that Rebecca needed to move on with his life. So much so that he tried to hook her up with his mentor, his acting coach, which did not go particularly well. It seems to contradict his attitude here, but very much is consistent with Kevin's later attitude as an adult Kevin towards the beginning of the series, which seriously annoyed him. Kevin ends up telling him that if he acts in any way on what's going on between him and his mother, he will feel a rumble beneath his feet, and it will be Jack from the grave. A lot of people seem to think that Miguel going to Houston was because of what Kevin said, and I don't quite buy that. You don't uproot your entire existence because of what one drunk teen says. Now, I have no doubt that what Kevin said to Miguel affected him, and may even played a part in how Miguel ended up breaking the news to Rebecca, and it may have even kept Miguel from contacting Rebecca or keeping in touch during all that time that they were apart. But the job in Houston had to have been something that was in the works for a while, and isn't ultimately related to what Kevin said. It is no doubt in my mind, though, that what Kevin said struck a nerve with Miguel, because in some ways, I'm sure that was already on his mind. He already felt guilty for having feelings for Rebecca because of Jack, his former best friend. This episode pretty much confirms that Rebecca and Miguel already had feelings for each other. It also answered the question of exactly where they were going with the Miguel and Rebecca story. They were not showing how they got together, but how they came apart. It kind of seems to me that we've actually explored all that we need to see in this timeline, and we should be moving on from it going forward, because there aren't many episodes left to go before this series is over, and we still have a lot of ground to cover. And yes, I gotta say, for the first time in a while, Kevin really is a jackass. In the present day timeline, we have quite the contrast in Kevin and Miguel's relationship, even though he initially dismisses Kevin's concern about the construction of the new cabin that Rebecca will eventually reside in. He doesn't get what Miguel is driving at until the very end, when Rebecca sets him straight in her speech, in which she says that Miguel is in charge of her care, but should he not be available to do so, because maybe he dies, then Kate will take over the decision making, which was no doubt a decision brought about by how Kevin and Randall started acting when her situation was initially revealed. And by the way, Mandy Moore as Rebecca absolutely rules this episode in all three time periods. I didn't really think much of the past timeline before Jack and Rebecca got married, but she was still pretty great in those scenes. And that speech she gives at the end should be included in her reel come awards time. It's long past time that she gets some recognition for her role as Rebecca, because she puts in a great performance week in and week out, playing the same character in multiple different timelines and nailing each and every one of them. I guess I should probably talk about Kate and Toby, even though I don't really want to. Throughout the series, I have liked Toby, I have liked Kate. I have not liked the storyline in which they are given. Last season, they did a passable job of looking like a functional couple until towards the end. But this season, it seems like they're back to the same old stuff. And for me, the last couple of seasons, last season sort of being an exception for the most part, Toby hasn't really felt like Toby. They've definitely changed his character in ways that I don't like, and I think contradicts what came before. Here, he wins the Jackass of the Episode award. I understand his concerns about beating the kids, but it's Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is a time to indulge a little bit more. And there is a time and a place to have these conversations, and this really wasn't it. I found myself not agreeing with him at all, and there was ample discussion of this on the Facebook group's pages. But if you watched the premiere, you saw Kate's refrigerator. You get a sense of exactly how carefully Kate is going about beating her children. Kate later says that he doesn't know how Toby doesn't know that. And quite honestly, neither do I. Also, Toby says that hers and Toby's weight is about genetics. And yes, there might be a genetic component to their weight, but that's not the only factor. Kate started gaining a lot of weight after Jack died, which in my mind is partly, or a big part of it, is because of her guilt. She thinks that she's responsible for her dad's death. Jack went back into that house to get Kate's dog. Now, it's my contention, and it always has been, that Jack's death was on him. He was swayed by his daughter's emotions to go back into the house to get that dog. That was bad enough. However, he also stopped to get family heirlooms, which meant that he was in the house for longer than it took to get that dog. So no, Kate is not responsible for her father's death. None of them are, but they all carry a certain amount of guilt, which influences their current day decision and action. But it isn't really on them. So Kate's weight gain, there was quite a bit of a psychological component to her weight issues. And the same goes for Toby. Toby, we know, suffers from depression, and that could be part of the reason why he gained weight as a kid, because maybe he was doing something that former roommate of mine used to call eating his feelings. Also, it was suggested that after his first wife left him, he started eating a lot more. So no, I don't buy Toby's argument that their weight problems are entirely genetic. Maybe it's part of the problem, but it's definitely not all of the problem. And for the record, depression can also be a genetic issue. We know that Toby's mother suffered from depression, so that might also be an issue for Jack. And that's something that Toby should be looking out for. This is all just set up to break them up, to have their marriage implode, and I can't stand it. It's not happening in an organic way. It's happening in a very rushed way because the series is coming to an end, and they have to hurry the storyline along. But it doesn't really change the fact that it's not great storytelling. At any rate, this was a pretty good episode, the final Thanksgiving episode of the series. And that is all I got for you for this video. If you like this video and want to support the channel, there are a number of ways to do so. You can join my two Facebook page group, the Corwin Productions one, as well as This Is Us discussion page. You can follow me on Twitter, @CorProduction. You can buy something from the Corwin Productions store on Zazzle. You can buy me a copy, which is a new way to support content creators such as myself. And of course, you can like, share, and comment on this video, as well as subscribing to my channel. This is Dave from Corwin Productions, signing off.